welcome to the PlayStation podcast with me, Chris Masvidas Pangeli, and I'm joined by Dave, as always.
Hello.
How are you, Dave?
Oh, I'm wonderful, Pingy. It's so nice to not be hosting
Oh,
a
I know.
podcast on this channel for the first time ever.
A third time ever, is it? Oh, great.
No pressure.
No pressure. Yeah, so we're talking PlayStation. Weirdly, we have not done a PlayStation podcast on this channel, which seems mad seeing it started as a PlayStation podcast on like the old channels and stuff. For ages, we've done one, I think. Which seems
Yes.
pretty crazy. That's the thing, and we've done plenty of Nintendo ones. We've even done a Cloud one.
God, that seems like a waste of time with hindsight, doesn't it?
Yeah, how Cloud gaming is going.
Sad times.
So we're gonna have a little bit of talk of PlayStation in 2023 because you might have seen on the channel I've been doing a bit of content for the PlayStation VR2 going into that launch next week. I think it's literally a week away. I think it's next Tuesday or something like that from when
Yes.
recording in this. So that's like a big thing, obviously coming this year and to PlayStation, but that's obviously not what anything they've got. So what's your sort of plans this year for PlayStation? Dave, backlog, what games are you looking forward to, etc.
So, yes, obviously, as Chris said, on the channel we have got Chris's Enter VR2 videos now.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you want more of those, please subscribe and like, because that does
Mm,
help motivate Chris to turn on his laptop and do some recording.
mm-hmm.
As for 2023, it's a very weird year for PlayStation for me. We talked at length off air about kind of what it looks like this year, and for me personally, I think it's a kind of mixture between a backloggy year and a kind of servicey year. And what I mean by that is there's a lot more on PS Plus now, um, which is basically added to a backlog. Like older games, there's quite a lot of interesting stuff on there. Like there's like all the Dragon Quest games that they put on PS4 are now on PS Plus, and like Horizons, I already own Horizon, but Horizon's just gone on there. Like Judgment is on there, like stuff like that that kind of interests me. So I think the main games for me this year that are coming out this year, I think Spider-Man 2 is probably the most definite. The Horizon Burning Shores DLC, once I finished Horizon, of course. And then potentially Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy 16 is a maybe. Final Fantasy Rebirth, if it comes out, is a definite. But
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of it for this year. Backlog wise, I just need to buy and play God of War Ragnarok.
Mm.
Um, because that was
Do
pretty much
you
everyone's favorite
think,
game. So
obviously we had the news yesterday, and I don't know if they've gone live yet, of PlayStation Plus essential, not essential, extra and premium Horizon Forbidden West. It was like the standout, and it's like exactly 12 months. Um, my personal opinion why they've added it now, because you got Call of the Mountain coming literally soon, and you got Burning Shores
yeah,
soon. And for me, like I've actually played Forbidden West. I rented it and did like the main story or whatever. But I would be keen to play Burning Shores. I don't own the game, but now I'm like, oh, just download Forbidden West from the thing, and then I'll just buy the DLC. To me, it feels like it's been added to get people to buy the DLC, and obviously with Call of the Mountain, there seems to be like a bit of a Horizon thing. But so, do you think we get God of War in November on
I don't
Plus,
think we
or
will because
most
I
probably
think
not?
it's I don't think they've got a pattern. Like you said, it seems to be for a marketing push that a
Mm,
game like Horizon has gone on there, whereas like we still haven't had Sackboy, we still haven't had Ratchet and Clank. You know what I mean? So I don't think there's a pattern enough to say like. So for someone like me who's waiting to play the game, I don't think it's enough of a pattern for me to be like, oh, I'll hold out because it's going to come. Like it could come. That could be a good way to push console sales at the end of the year, push the service sales, because usually they like to do what
mm,
Nintendo does, and they do it when it's the renewal
mm.
time, because obviously when is it about August it launched.
Yeah, something like that.
So like when that comes around and everyone's got the new year of renewals, I feel like they will be a better month. So it could be, but I'm not sure. Like I'm really not sure. Um, I'm just glad they're finally starting to add a decent amount of PS1 games. Excuse
Mm.
me, I've still got a
Yeah,
cough.
because obviously the premium has Legend of Dragoon. Was it Wild Arms
Wild
2
Arms 2, you've got
and
almost all of the Siphon filters on there, both of the
yeah,
Everybody's Golf games, like all that kind of good stuff.
yeah. So they just need Metal Gear Solid now with trophies.
I think you'll get Metal Gear Solid, but I think that'll come from Konami. That won't come from
Mm,
PlayStation.
yeah. So disappointing. Myself this year, there's like two backlogs. I've got. If you've watched the main podcast, when I bought my PS5, I think it was like late November, early December, and then obviously we had January sales in. Well, I say January, but it was like the 26th of December. So I picked up a load of PS5 games like Solstice, Siberia 4, which I have not played. Sort of thing. So they're like backlog. And then I got sort of like more recent ones. Like I bought Seasons, which is like a recent indie game that just released. And I bought Forspoken, which I was going to like play at the moment, but Nintendo dropped Metroid Dread Remastered, so I've been playing that. So I got like these, sort of like closer ones that would play if it wasn't for Nintendo. I'd be playing them at the moment of time, sort of thing. But then coming like later of the year, got Burning Shores, which I'm keen on, and now that Horizon Forbidden West is in this service, I don't have to buy that because I was thinking, oh, they're going to do like a deluxe edition, as they did with Zero Dawn. You remember that they released it with Frozen Wilds.
Hmm. Yes, yeah, they did the complete edition, which I think they will do again.
Yeah, so I was thought, oh, I'm going to end up having to buy the 70, 80 quid complete edition to buy Burning Shores, but now that, so I'm keen for that. Um, Final Fantasy 16, which I've talked about on the podcast all the time. It's the new running joke. That is the game I mention like every podcast,
Hmm.
sort of thing. But I'm keen for that because 15 was like 7 years ago. So mainline Final Fantasy, you don't get that often. So excited about that one. Spider-Man 2, which I feel we're gonna get like September, especially if the rumored PlayStation 5 Slims are
God.
true or not. I can see Spider-Man 2, people that haven't upgraded from PS4 to PS5 wanting to play that game. And then if they got a cheaper Slim or something, an option to sell the Slims. Again, it could be like you're saying with like God of War and Renews, like, oh, this month, this September, you've got Spider-Man 2 coming out for 70 quid. You buy it, and you've got God of War on Plus. That would definitely shift PS5 consoles, I would think.
Hmm.
Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which might be a weird one, but I played the fighting game Versus not long ago. I played it like last month now. There's a new one of them coming as well, Versus like 2. Really enjoyed that. I've never played the mobile game where it's based off or watched the anime, but the JRPG coming Relink looks really actually just look really good. But was supposed to come out like 2 or 3 years ago, and Platinum were gonna make it, and then Platinum were taken off, and then I think it's CyberConnect took it in house or something. So it's had a bit of a weird development, but the last time they showed it, like a Grand Blue showcase event in Japan, where they talked more about the anime and mobile game, they showed it again there. It does look um pretty good, sort of thing. And then there's sort of like Rebirth, like you said, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. It just depends if it's this next winter, I'll be getting it in December, like we got Crisis Core, or is it going to be 2024? That is the
I'm
thing.
praying that it's the Christmas game.
Mm,
Like for me, because my plan this year, I know it's February, is to take all of Christmas off because with my
mm,
job, I can have that option. I didn't do it
mm,
last year. I'm going to do it this year. So like, if a game like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth could drop and just take over our lives for 2 weeks,
mm.
that'd be kind of perfect, Chris. If I'm honest with
Yeah.
you.
The only thing is, are Square going to have 16 and Rebirth in the same year? But is
They are Square
Square.
Enix though, right? They put a game out every 2 weeks, I think.
They had 35 games last year,
Right,
so
so that's 3 games a month. So I could easily see them doing that, and it's going to sell, isn't it? No matter what.
yeah.
If you're a Final
And
Fantasy fan, you're crazy.
and also I know they said this year because it's the 35th anniversary year of Final Fantasy, even though it was last year, it's like December last year or something, but they're saying the whole year is the 30th. There's going to be plenty of Final Fantasy content. We're getting the Pixel
You're getting the
remasters.
Pixel
So,
remasters. So
uh,
frustrated by the way that the way they've released those in terms of like the incredibly limited pre-orders.
mm,
Because it's like I would buy the collection as a physical set, absolutely.
mm,
Like I absolutely would because there's enough of them. There's enough of those games I haven't played in the last 10 years that would probably motivate me to turn on my PS5. So it's a bit frustrating, but we know what it's like for Square Enix sometimes.
yeah, yeah, it's a limited edition. Like even like the standard just a disc was like a limited edition through the Square Store, wasn't it?
Hmm.
And then you got that super fancy edition with the vinyl and everything.
The Pengles
And then we
edition, as it's more
and we
commonly known.
just and we just had the Theatre Rhythm game come out as well. I think it's out today, which was reviewed quite well. So plenty of Final
Yes.
Fantasy content. So I can see Rebirth coming this year, and I think it's Seven's 20th anniversary or 25th anniversary or something this year as
In
well.
Japan, again, no, I think it was 25th last year. It came
Yeah,
out in
there's some
97 in England.
So there is some anniversary for Final Fantasy VII I've
God
seen as
knows.
well. So I can see, I can definitely see Square like pushing a lot of Final Fantasy and putting the 35th anniversary on logo on everything and all that good stuff. And the other one that's on here, which hasn't got a date, but I feel it will come this year, and that's Silent Hill 2 remake,
Hmm.
because they said it was in post production after we had Silent Hill Showcase, which was what was it, October last year? I feel there was the showcase
Yeah,
for all Silent
sounds
Hill
about
2
right.
games, or all the Silent Hill
Yeah,
games.
we've got
So
the
it's
new
the one
Silent Hill
that's,
game as well.
yeah, I can't see that until like 2024 or 25.
Yeah.
F. Um, and there's the other one I can't remember. Is it Townfall or something like that? There was like 5 Silent Hill games, but this is the one that seems obviously the furthest ahead from Blooper Team. So I think the only thing it might have problem if, again, they're in post production, so I don't know how long. If that was in October, how long that goes to coming like this year or something. There's a lot of horror games this year and a lot of like remake horror games. So we just had Dead Space. We got Resident Evil 4 soon. That maybe they don't want to come out this year with all the others thing, but if they come out like October, Halloween or something.
Yeah, they
Um,
don't want to miss the boom as well because it's a
mm,
double-edged sword. Like they don't want to come out and be compared to Resident Evil 4 and Callisto Protocol and Dead Space, but equally everyone will probably be in the mood because they're playing
mm,
those games and you know what it's like when you play a game you want to play. So you will probably want to play that type of game again by the end of the year. So
mm,
I mean Konami need to put games out, so I think you probably will get Silent Hill 2 and then I think you probably will hear something Metal Gear this year. Like I'm not a
mm.
betting man, but I would bet we see something Metal Gear on PlayStation
Oh,
this year for sure.
mm,
You know?
yeah, yeah. So, and then obviously it's missed here, but sort of chatting while we're chatting, and we obviously mentioned the end of the PSVR. Is PSVR 2 comes out
This
soon,
month,
which
right?
has what he comes out, yeah, this month. I think the list when I we were gonna do this podcast originally, I think it was 114 games announced for it, but in total, but loads more. Oh, sorry, I think I got a post this.
You carry on, Chris. I can carry this bit. Don't worry, everyone. PSVR is coming soon, and there is over 100 games. And I think Chris is going to list off his top 10 when he comes back.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So this is the behind the scenes. This is the Waterman, if you remember the Waterman from the old days of the PS I Love You kind of funny podcast. Chris is paying his water bill right now. If
No,
only.
it wasn't post. I
Was
don't
it
know
was it
what
the
it is
Waterman,
about.
Chris?
It was the Waterman.
Was the Waterman? As I said to the fans, it was obviously a throwback to the kind of funny PS I Love You podcast of many years ago. But yes, Chris, over
Yeah.
100 games for PSVR. You've listed off your top 10 here.
Well, this is not. It's sort of my personal top 10,
Yes, the 10 you're excited for.
and
Because obviously, you said before we get started, you've pre-ordered this, haven't you?
yes, I have pre-ordered a PSVR 2. I've pre-ordered the bundle which comes with Horizon Call of the Mountain, um, because it's literally the sort of big game on PSVR2 at sort of launch. So that is coming, and this is the one of talking about PSVR2 in general. Is like one of my sort of like worries with the system is like that game is 60 quid on the PlayStation Network,
It is.
which seems ridiculous in price. And my worry is like Fireball's coming out this later this year. It's a PlayStation published game. That game's gonna be 60 quid. I'm like, oh, I want to play that game. It's a multiplayer game, but I'm not gonna pay 60 quid for a multiplayer VR game. And I feel there's gonna be other people like that, and then they'll be like, no one's playing this VR game. I'm like, well, it's not. It's 60 quid, and like, it's an online shooter. Um, so I'm thinking like
It's
there is
really
physical
difficult.
games coming, but
Yeah, it's really
but
difficult.
they're from Parp and a few others, which are cheap on the cheaper side, like 25, 30 quid. But most, I say indie, but a lot of the PSVR stuff is that sort of thing. Um, coming as well. So I want to kind of support the physical PSVR games, but again, me buying ones from Parp, I don't know if Sony see that and go, oh, we need to put Firewall out as a physical, or whatnot.
I think the difficulty with a platform like PSVR2, because it's an addition to an already existing platform. I think they're kind of
Mm,
banking on you being a PlayStation fan. So like so
mm-hmm.
for example, if you weren't buying Switch games and you don't buy Xbox games, but if you weren't buying Switch games, I think the
Yeah.
prospect of spending £60 on Firewall buying £60 on a game every month isn't too bad
Mm,
if you're like invested and you love the platform, you love the games, and you want to support it. It's fine,
yeah.
but it's when you're not just PlayStation, I think that's when the problems become because we've said before, like everything stops for Tears of the Kingdom,
Mm,
So like that's money you could have spent on some indie experiences on PSVR 2, and I think that's where I'm curious about how it's going to do because I just don't think people have as much money at the moment as they did when PSVR 1 came out. Like we're in a global recession, and it's an expensive
yeah.
piece of kit, so it's like, for when we've joked on the podcast, like it's fascinating for us. Like, is it gonna last a year for you? Because obviously you're gonna play it when it comes out, play the big games, and then it's like, well, can you afford to keep it around? Like, is there more stuff for you? So I
Yeah,
personally hope you
that's
stick to it because it's good content for the channel. But like, you know what I mean? But it's like other than that, I'm
yeah,
very
that's
curious.
just also the thing. Like, it must be like 120 plus games yet now because we had 6 games announced yesterday for it. Some are remasters, some are like coming from Quest, some are new and stuff like that. There must be 120 odd games. But Sony's blog was a while ago now. It was like 37 games on that list of like coming at the launch window. The launch window is the first month. So you got like Switchback, for instance, coming out the 16th of March, which I hope gets a physical because it's 35 quid. Which isn't too bad, but I remember I was sort of put off for paying 35 quid for Metro Prime digitally. I think I paid 28 for that in the end, getting a
Yeah.
voucher and stuff. So maybe I can do a bit of shenanigans and getting a voucher for Switch and Switchback. But it seems like we've got these 120 odd games. Sony's press was like 35, 37 at like launch window. There's been more games announced since, like even on Sony's like blog, like Gardens at the Sea, which is like an Animal Crossing sort of like that's now a launch game. Launch. It feels like we're gonna have like 50 games within the first month, which you got to think for launch. That's like amazing 50 games in a month. You got to think the Switch had like 2 games within its first like 3 months. Um, think, but then it's like, oh, I got 50 games to possibly play, and now I've got nothing until Firewall in like 6 months' time. I know those 50 games aren't going anywhere, and like, oh, I've seen a review for X, I now pick that up because it's on sale in May or whatever, sort of thing. That is again, as one of like these revelations I've had on the system. Like the games could be expensive, we have got content, but what's the content after the initial launch is a bit of a thing as well. And there's a double-edged sword because if you don't buy the 60 quid game or whatever, like a Firewall, let's say, then are Sony going to make other games, but I don't want to pay 60 quid for a sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it does put you guys in a difficult position because, like you said, it's very inconsistent with what's
Mm,
physical and what isn't physical.
mm,
So it's like you kind of have to pick and choose your battles, so to speak.
mm,
Again, like I just think it comes down to like
yeah,
you're just not going to pre-order these games. I think that's the big difference. You're just going to have to wait and see if they review
yeah,
well. Like if Firewall reviews it at 90, which it won't, but if it was and you were like it's a
mm,
must-play experience on this, then you will. But obviously we'll see. So let's
mm.
look, before we get into let's get into your the 10 games you're excited for.
Yeah. So this is a bit of me and I ask because obviously the video's done well on the channel. A few comments and a few comments on. There's a VR Discord I'm in and a few Facebook. There's a few active still from the PSVR 1 days. So what I got feedback from people, what they're looking forward to, plus putting my own thoughts on that. But again, this might have changed because this was based on the 35 games Sony put out of the list coming launch window, and now we've got more like to 50. So Gardens at the Sea might be a game that people were excited about. But when I, got the feedback, so the 10th, like most excited game again is Song in the Smoke Rekindled, which is a remaster of a PSVR 1 game. Getting a physical from Parp. I think it's 25 quid for the physical, so it's not that expensive. It's a free upgrade from PSVR 1 to PSVR 2 as well, so if you already own it. So it's got all that sort of good stuff. It's not that expensive, 25 quid on the PlayStation Network. Physical coming, free upgrade if you already own, sort of thing. I didn't know much about this one, Dave, until um, getting the chat out. And even I'm still not 100% sure of what it is. Um, because I've like watched a review. I watched PSVR Patrol's review, and it's like, oh, it's a survival game, and I'm watching the video, and it's like, I don't know, you're a caveman, cavewoman, or something, and you're making like fires and stuff, and there's like creatures in the world, and that I'm like, am I just surviving in this world? But it did in the chat. It's apparently you get like goals, and you do the goals, and it opens like next to like areas, and there's like a boss and stuff like that. And that so it sounds like there is a bit of a story. There is a demo coming on day 1, so putting content on the like the channel and stuff. I mostly will play the demo, so I like it. I might pick up the physical thing, and they've been really like good. This studio putting like talking about the game, like they're doing all this stuff. Like they've got like actual comparison videos and gifs and stuff showing like the PSVR 1 compared to the Quest version and the PC VR version, the PSVR, like comparing them all, and you can actually see the differences and that, like the delete from PSVR 1 from PSVR 2, and like all the like cool features that like if you get hit, like the haptics and like the headset will rumble and stuff like that. So it actually looks like they're in like quite a cool things they're doing with it. It's just a bit of a weird one.
I
Hence why I
look
put it
forward
on
to
like
watching your video about it, Chris, because it's not something
yeah, like I
I'm
said,
too
I can play
familiar
the
with.
demo. I hope it's also one of those demos like Square does and it starts from the start, and I can carry my save over or something
Yeah,
if I do
maybe.
like it. Number 9 on thing is Star Wars Tales of the Galaxy Enhanced Edition, which again is a Quest game which is coming over, so it's new to the PlayStation platform, but it was on Quest previously. It's Star Wars, so it's like a really big, IP. Getting a game in VR. I've seen mixed reviews of it on Quest and stuff, but like graphics are improved. I think the tracking with the thing, and again, it's one that's actually weirdly getting a physical. I think it's 40 quid, so it's a little bit more expensive. Song and Smoke, but you think it was the Star Wars IP, and I feel it's a bit of a chunky game as well because it's like when it's released on Quest, I think it's episodic and it's all like one bundle. So I think it's like 8 hours or something, which doesn't sound a lot when, you know, Tears the Kingdom or whatever. When we say that's going to be a lot, at least 30 just doing the story. Where this is like 8, and that we're saying that's long, but in the actual VR space, it's quite a long sort of like long time. And I think you meet C-3PO and Yoda and stuff in it, so it has got like recognizable characters and stuff as well.
Yeah, it looks quite interesting. It looks like the first one looks like an experience as opposed to
Mm.
like a full game. But again, if you like Star Wars, it seems like a good idea.
Yeah, it's one like I most probably will get that, like physically in that. And then number 8 is Moss 2.
So that's just two, or is it Moss Book One and Two? Because I've seen
Well,
but they're bundled together, aren't they? For
yes, you can buy book 1, book 2, or you can buy them all together. Moss 2 is the one people seem to be pointing out mostly. I've actually got this one pre-ordered because it was like a discount on PlayStation, Plus, where
yes,
they knock off the 10% if you pre-ordered. I think why book 2's being like I play book 1 on PSVR, but it's great. It's one of the best PSVR games I played. But I've not played book 2 because I've actually got PSVR 1. And if you look how the game actually sold or did, um, from what I've read from Polyarc and stuff, the game I think is now on PC, VR, and Quest. Didn't actually do that well, and I think because it was a really late, it was like last year I think it came out,
yeah,
so it was like a late PSVR 1 game. But now obviously with PSV 2 coming, like coming out at launch, I've not played this one, but I played the first. I'm excited because I know what the game is. No, it's good. I think a lot of people in the same boat from of this, and it's like there's not many like platformer games on launch. Just one of those where like you're the like character, you're the camera, so you're looking down of like Quill, and you're controlling Quill, and like you can move around, so you like tilt your head to the left or right and go, oh, there's a collectible down there. I could only see that because I've moved my head in the way to see something about around the corner. Does make me want a new Astro game for PSVR2, which I'm a little disappointed with not got an Astro game
God,
at launch.
I don't want it to be PSVR 2. I'm
Mm,
selfish. I want Astro. I want the next Astro to
mm,
be a full PS5 game.
yeah. The only thing with this one, like I was talking to Songs of Smoke, how it's a free upgrade, and it's 25 quid, so it's not a bad price if you don't own it. It's all that good. Moss 2 has no upgrade path. Same with Moss Book 1. So if you do own the game, you have to rebuy this game. They have
That's
done nothing, Polyarc, for this. Which, like Moss 2, if they're saying that they didn't really sell PSVR 1, I guess they want, try to recruit their money back, so they don't want to. But Moss 1, I feel, did like well, but I guess if they did a free upgrade for Moss 1, they have to do one for Moss 2. So, sort of thing. Like, I've bought it because I've not bought it in the first place. I would, if I bought it on PSVR 1, yeah, I definitely wouldn't be rebuying it, and then I can kind of get the annoyance of that.
absolutely.
Number 7 is a bit of a weird one. I also got this one pre-ordered because it was a plus discount. Everyone seems to be really excited about this. When I tell you what it is, you're going to be like, really? And that's Kayak VR.
Okay, I think I've seen footage of this. It does actually look like low key kind of fun.
Yeah, again, I feel it's coming over from Quest, but I'm not 100% or PC VR. Everyone says it's like the one of the best looking VR games, and I feel that's why it's being touted as like the hidden sort of gem, and it's like I think it's like 16 quid, so it's not that expensive. So you can I can get like people like taking the punt on it on launch because you're gonna go and want games, but if you just spent 550, your budget's mostly gonna be not a huge amount. So maybe this picked up. But it's like the graphical showcase game. It's like if you come over and it's like, oh, Dave, want to have a look at the VR2? Here's Kayak. Look how great it looks. And it's mostly the game I might play first on my VR2 because I've not played VR for a while. I play some Quest and get my VR sort of legs back instead of going straight into Horizon and I'm firing bows and arrows and stuff everywhere and sort of thing. Like this, I'm like sat down and just going like gently down the lake or whatever and like taking in the scenery. It has got a platinum trophy though, and the trophies do look kind of interesting. So
Oh God, this is when the Pengals Platinum Rush returns, isn't it? These type of
hmm
games.
Like, Dave, this is super rare. It's only like two people have the platinum, and they're like,
It's you and Greg Miller, and that's it.
mm-hmm. So number six is The Walking Dead, Chapter 2, Saints and Sinners. The first one, again, I've not played the first one. Everyone said it was like a really good VR experience. I think it's like a 20+ hour game, like a full game was like 40 quid. And this is the new one. It's a feel might have come out already on like Quest or something and didn't review well. But then it came to PC VR and then it's like miles better. Um, sort of thing. I think they do a bundle where you can get this in the first game, and the first game is getting an upgrade. I'm not gonna play it my self, and I know you're not getting a VR2 anytime soon, but I very much doubt you would play it because of the scariness.
Yeah, I don't like to be scared, Chris. I'm a big girl's blouse in that regard.
Mm. Yeah, so I haven't really got much to say that one because like it's getting a physical, but even like all trying to support physical VR2 games, like don't see me picking it up myself. And you're gonna go, oh, Peng, you're being a big girls' blouse as well. No, because I did play 7 all the way through Resident Evil 7 in VR, so it's not really that sort of thing. I just don't, not really keen on it. Number 5, this one I am sort of keen on, but I just feel I've missed the boat of it of when it got good, and that's No Man's Sky.
Yes.
I did see it's on offer at the moment on PlayStation Network. It's 20 quid for the obviously PS5 version of the game. So I'm like, oh, 25 quid for whatever it is for No Man's Sky, and it's getting a PSVR 2 like upgrade, which I think isn't that launch day. It's only in the launch window, so I'm not sure exactly when that's going. And I know people love the first, like the PS4 version of it in PSVR 1 in VR, which again is one of those games that kind of makes sense in VR, like especially when you're in the spaceships and sort of thing. Maybe not so much when you're running around the planets, but I see the spaceship bit being cool. And I've seen some comparisons. I can definitely see the upgrade from VR, more from PS4 to PS5, and then the VR1 to VR um 2 of this. And there's one, obviously there is a PS5 like physical version. It's 20 quid I think on PlayStation Network at the moment, or 25 quid. So it's sort of like a cheap, and you might even have it. I don't know if there was an upgrade from PS4 to PS5 or anything. Of like the standard version. But yeah, what do you think, Dave? Because this game had like a bit of a comeback story, but you feel a bit like me that is a bit like we've missed the boat.
God, excuse me. Yes, I mean, famously on this show, we played it on launch day, and I had been telling you for months it was going to be trash, and it
Hmm.
was. But I just think it's one of those. It's one of those games. Unfortunately, though, it's difficult to find the time because they've added a lot of content and it looks like a much better game now. But it's you really seems like it's a more fun experience in multiplayer, and then it's finding the time. I think for
Mm.
VR it could be quite an interesting because it's a proper game, like it's a full game. So it's
Yeah.
one of those where you're like, if you want to justify um, your VR purchase, it's not an expensive copy. Like you can get a pretty cheap disc-based copy of No Man's Sky if it's not already on a service.
Mm.
You know, so it's one of those like I don't think it's too bad an idea for VR, but I think yeah, I agree with you. Like I think it's been out a while now. Like old game be old, right? Like there's other
Mm.
plus stuff to play.
No, I just feel if I put the game on, I'll be like, what's all this content? What do I do first?
Yeah,
Where
and
am I
it's got
going?
quite a slow start as
Ah,
well, if my memory
okay.
serves me.
Yeah, sort of thing. Number 4 is a horror game that I'm excited about, and that's the Dark Pictures anthology Switchback, which is like a spiritual successor to Until Dawn: Rush of Blood, which was a PSVR one launch game and Supermassive are back. Not quite launched, it's the 16th of March for Switchback, set in the Dark Pictures universe.
Yes, I saw this. It's got some interesting features in it. Stuff like
Mm.
um if you like if you like close your eyes or whatever, like stuff attacks you and all this kind of
Yeah, it's
shenanigans.
using the blinking on the PSVR thing. So if you blink, It's like a bit with a mannequin or something from the trailer because people have gone just been having a hands-on with this one at Supermassive Studios in I think they're in Guildford or something like that. Having hands-on and talking about it, yeah, and like I think there's 10 levels based on the Dark Pictures games. I was gonna say there's 2 levels per game, but I think there's 4 games, so that would only make 8. Unless there's levels based on the new sci-fi Dark Pictures game or two, and yeah, but there's a bit where if you blink, the mannequins will move, a bit like the Weeping Angels in Doctor Who sort of thing.
Hmm.
So if you don't blink, they don't move.
Yes, I think it looks interesting. Again, it's too scary for me, but again, could be a good one for you.
Mm,
And I heard good things about about Rush of Blood on
yeah,
PSVR 1.
yeah, and it's one of those like I was saying about VR legs. Sort of thing because it's like an on rails you're in a roller coaster and like you can sit down to play it and you can do the thing and like it can't. It's normally when you're trying to move around in VR as well. Like you're trying to do like move around and you're not actually moving around, where it gets sort of weird, sort of thing. But yeah, so being sat down and stuff on that one, I'm excited about that one. Number three, everyone seems to be. I've seen so many in the PSVR like Discord, people buying steering wheels, going nuts for this game. People that would have no interest in the game now have interest of it. Seeing myself, and that's Gran Turismo 7.
Yeah, really fascinating. So obviously, I actually am currently playing Gran
Hmm.
Turismo. I've had my brother's copy borrowed for like 6 months, and I think he forgot he owns it. Like that's how little
Mm,
he was doing it. But yeah, I mean VR could be quite cool for it. It's like you said. I think if you're gonna do it VR, you kind of need to you kind of need to at least get like a cheap wheel.
mm,
Just because if it's already VR, like it's an immersive game, right? So I think the cheapest OK wheel is about £60
mm,
with pedals, like a basic one you just like put to a desk. And I think that experience in a headset will be so good. Sim racing is really popular post pandemic. Really, really popular. So like, and Gran Turismo 7 does it quite well. So I think it could low key be one of the biggest reasons to get. If you're a console sim racer, I think getting a VR headset for that is a very good reason because they'll add that to the next Dirt Rally game. I think Dirt Rally 1 was a PSVR game with
mm.
a similar features to this. So I would imagine that Dirt Rally 3 or the Dirt WRC game that comes out inevitably in the next 12 months and probably F1 23 will have these features as well. So I think it's a bit of a free hit and could probably revitalize a little bit of GT7's reputation, you know?
Yeah, well, it's the only racing game that like seems to there's like seems to be like no other racing games announced, and it's like missing something for PS3 or 2, and I mean in general, not even at launch, which seems mad because
Actually, there isn't that many around anymore, Chris, unfortunately. I think racing games are a lot rarer than
yeah,
we remember. I think, like I said, I think the next Dirt game will absolutely have PSVR2 support
mm,
because they've done it before, and the PC versions will have VR support. So I
mm,
wouldn't be surprised.
yeah.
Or maybe even if Dirt Rally 2 were to get a patch for it, you know.
Yeah, because it's a genre that makes so much sense in VR. Like again, you're like sat down in the car, so even like the speed thing, and that I know there was hands on. Like I think it was Ryan McCaffrey of Xbox. Like he braked and like his body did like sort of like go forward
Yeah,
with like the braking, but I think it's one where like everything does click, and like like I had no interest in Gran Turismo 7, and now I am interested in Gran Turismo 7. It's just again, it's a game that has a physical version. It's just trying to find like a cheap one because I'm not sure how much I will. So I'm not a huge racing fan in begin with, and then a sim racing on top of that. But it just looks like one of the standout experiences for PSVR 2. It's just trying to find like a cheap copy or
yes.
something to give it, or maybe rent it. But then if I get into it, I want to own it, especially if like I'm doing YouTube videos or something. And like I'm gonna drive a Nissan GTR through the Nürburgring, and I'm gonna, record that and put it on the
So
channel or
am I
something
right
like
in
that.
thinking that they've just basically said the whole game is just with VR?
Yeah, the whole game is
Because
same
it's
path
one
and
of those
split
where it's
screen.
like
apart
like
from which obviously you can't do with split screen.
yeah,
You
like
can only wear one headset.
we'd probably play it online. That's the thing. Like I
Mm,
have a copy of the game and play it regularly, so it's like
yeah,
that could be the one game where you could have your VR. And I'd personally pay good money for you to have a little racing setup,
yeah,
little headset. Oh, what a dream!
yeah. That's the thing. I wouldn't be buying a steering wheel
Not
because
unless you got really into it though. That's the thing. And you're like,
yeah,
oh,
I've
you
got
know what?
really into it. But it might be a bit weird just because I would just use my dual sense, not the
Yeah,
sense controllers for that, because that would be even weirder trying to use them with Gran
yeah. It
Turismo
works
7.
quite well on DualSense, to be fair.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, I'm literally playing it as we're talking now because I figured out
Mm,
we were going to talk about it in a minute. But yeah, it works really well because it has all of the basically what a force feedback controller would have. Because
mm,
obviously it's got all of the trigger tension and all that good stuff. So yeah,
yeah.
low key
So
that might be the best one for
yeah.
VR.
Then number two is like the actual big VR game because it's only on VR, and that's Horizon Called the Mountain, obviously set in the Horizon universe where I don't know if Aloy will make an appearance or something,
Oh,
but
I'd imagine so.
you play as a Carja hunter or something like that, sort of thing. From the trailers, I think it's gonna do. Remember, I was saying about VR legs. There's all the trailer where you're actually on like a canoe or something, and
Hmm.
it's going on the um water much slower. I think it is gonna sort of like build you up, and then you'll get to eventually after you've played it for like an hour or two, where you actually start fighting Thunder Jaws. And I've seen people going hands on, recording the person playing it, where you can actually see them like holding the one sense controller out and then pulling back like with the other one to do the bow and arrow and stuff like that. And it is a proper sort of beefy game. I think people are saying it's like 8-10 hours to finish the
Mm.
game. Again, if you compare it to Horizon Forbidden West, I think that took me like 26, 27 hours to just do the story. Compared to that, where you consider it like exactly the same price, it doesn't sound like a lot of
Yeah,
content.
I
But
think
then you got to take,
the price is
then
the
you,
big problem.
like I'm paying 40 quid for it because I'm
Yeah,
buying it
that
in the
seems fair.
bundle, and I don't feel as bad about like paying that for it because it's in the bundle and there's like the code and stuff like that. Like you gotta have a game to play on your new sort of headset.
Hmm.
But if I was just weird, if I somehow just went for the headset without the thing, and I was to pick this down up on the road, it just seem a bit more expensive of that 60 quid price point. Well, it might go on sale or added the plus. That's the one thing. Obviously we just had the plus update. Is like if they add any PlayStation VR 2 games to any of the plus things, because at one point with PSVR 1, with obviously the old plus thing, there was like a VR game, like one a month for a bit when that launched, sort of thing, or something compatible, and then that did dry up a bit. So I don't know if like March we'll get a VR game in Plus Essentials or something, or they'll give you like No Man's Sky, so you can play it and I can play it, and if I got VR, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean it's Horizon's Call of the Mountain is probably it's the Half-Life Alex of the service in more
Mm,
ways than one, for sure. Um, and I'm it's if I were going to buy PSVR 2,
mm,
which if I'm going to do that, that'll be the end of the year for me.
mm-hmm.
That's probably one of the games I'd be like, well, that's the reason I'm buying the headset.
Yeah, that
So
is like the reason I buy it on the
yeah, and it's
headset.
curious that
It,
they're really pushing Horizon as this big franchise. You have to think, unfortunately, how it does kind of basically determines how VR2 is going to go.
mm,
So I'm very interested to see what you think of it when you play it because
yeah.
its previews have been very positive. And it looks good. It looks like a really like graphically looks good. Like the mechanics make sense for VR. So I think that'll be. I would be surprised if that's not everyone's favorite VR game, and it's also the one that I've taken on. I believe I've taken on Fantasy Critic because I'm
Hmm.
pretty confident that's going to review quite well.
Yeah, only thing is like I did I think chat you yesterday with Forbidden West. I know I've played that, so I might go back to it and try to do some of the side quests, which I
I've
never
literally
did.
reinstalled it
Yeah.
after we talked about doing this show today because I was like, oh well, I literally own it.
Yeah,
So
because I feel some of the side quests are supposed to be really good on there. I just didn't do it because I was renting it. Plus, I played it on PS4, not PS5.
it is gorgeous on PS5, I must say.
It was ridiculous on PS4 Pro,
Yeah,
so
it's
I
just
don't know what
gorgeous
to
on
think.
PS5.
And like 60 frames would be a thing. So
Hmm.
I do think a bit of a Horizon burned out Shores was
Right.
really bad.
No, that's
Come
a
like eight
wonderful pun, Pengy.
come
That's a
out in
lot of
April,
Horizon in the space of, if you think it's been added to
3 months.
Plus, and then
Mm,
you're getting Call of the Mountain.
yeah,
Well, basically it's like 2 weeks, a week, something like that, and then
mm,
you're gonna get Burning Shores. A
which
lot of
is
Horizon. And is
it's
am I so,
April.
so Call
Uh,
of the Mountain is also not physical, right? It's only
no,
digital.
yeah,
That's such a shame because it's one of those games where I like. Oh, this sounds really silly, but like if I saw a physical for 30 quid in a couple months' time, I'd probably pick it up beforehand because
yeah,
I think they do miss a trick with this. Because I mean, me and you are the same person in this regard. That if you know you're going to get a platform, you
mm,
build the library before you get it.
mm,
So like, yeah, curious. I again like very curious. That is probably the one game that I'm like that will do a full Pengles Enter the VR discussion video for sure because
yeah.
I'm really curious what you think of that.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, I might not play it. Like plus it'd be like a 50 gig install where like Kayak can mostly like 2 gigs and it's already installed. So I might not play it right away, but I might only have so many games again at launch. And then number one, not my personal number one, but it's like every single person who I asked mentioned this game. And I kind of get why, because Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, I played the whole game in VR, was great in VR, and that's Resident Evil Village, which you
Even
might
I've
just
played.
yeah. I was gonna say it's now gone back up in price, but I think it was 18 quid on the
Yes,
PlayStation Network.
they did what they always do, Capcom, and they've basically delisted the original version of the game, and you can only buy the gold edition now, which I think has a lower starting price,
Mm-hmm.
but is obviously the full DLC
Yeah,
edition, and the DLC looks really good, to be fair.
yeah. So I was gonna say I don't know if the DLC is gonna be playable on the VR, but the main like story
I wouldn't be
is gonna be
surprised if it
playable.
is. I mean, think they're also. I mean, the one that surprised me that's not made people's top 10 is I believe Resident Evil 4 remake is having VR mode.
Yeah, this is the thing. It was announced, and then and then nothing's been talked about it since. When they announced Village was coming to VR, then I think they showed Resident Evil 4, and then there was like a little black screen came up, and it's like VR compatible or something, but nothing's been mentioned since about that, so I don't really know what's happening. Plus, that's in third person, where Village is first person,
Yeah, which works a lot better.
which is a lot better in VR. And from the trailers and stuff, it shows you. Because obviously you can aim the gun how you want, so you can want to hang your pistol sideways, you can, but it's showing a bit like I think it's like the sisters or whatever, like showing throwing knives. You can actually bring your hands up and like block the knives and stuff from hitting you. So
Poor Ethan in his hands, by the way.
yeah, so it's sort of more immersive, and then it's like obviously the trailer of Lady Demetrius and like her picking you up, and then obviously like, you're looking like down at her because obviously in
Because
VR.
obviously all
It
you
does look
perverts, Chris, I know you're all looking at.
Yeah, so it does look actually does look really good. It's just I've played a bit of Village. I've done like the Lady Demetrius like section on Village. I played on Xbox, and I was not really that fussed about the game in general. So I'm not so I'm not like itching to play it in VR, even though like I love
You might
7.
ironically enjoy it more in VR because I think
Yeah, because I enjoyed 7.
7 was terrifying. So
Mm,
playing it in VR, I mean, you're a true psychopath. But it's
mm,
like I quite enjoyed Village in a weird way,
mm,
which it's I still found it scary because I
mm,
don't like the tension, the survival horror element.
mm,
But the fact that you'll have it in this kind of on this new platform, and it obviously you'll be playing it on PS5, it's will be
yeah.
better with the dual
That's the
sense,
thing. I would have to
all the
start from
senses
scratch playing on
controllers.
PSVR.
Yeah, the
But
best bit is the opening bit of the game, though, right? So like the
yeah.
opening bit and then the Lady Dimitrescu's castle is the best part of the game. So,
Mm,
and I'd imagine for a shorter playtime, like mercenary modes is probably actually quite a fun mode in VR.
mm. Yeah, it
So
could be.
yeah, I think you can be quite positive about it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just definitely one. Like I know loads of people, like I said in VR, like Discord, like also Ian Quid moment on PlayStation Network, and I picked that up and I spent it pretty cheap, used like a disc copy or something off
yeah,
the game as well. Um, and then like looking at this top 10, you got some like big IPs there. You got Resident Evil, Horizon, Call of Duty, Dark Pictures, a Star Wars game.
Gran
I guess
Turismo is pretty big.
Yeah, Walking Dead's a pretty big like name. So there's some big games they're coming up the thing. It didn't make this list because again, no one really mentioned it. But what I'm kind of excited about, so I guess it's like the number 11 or the bonus hidden gem, is Beyond Your Eyes, sort of thing, which might be like a weird one. I think it's like 12 quid if you buy it now because of Plus. And I'm thinking there might be 20. I don't think it's coming out till the 3rd of March. Um, the one is the one I played it on PC. Is on PC it uses your webcam to like try to track your eye movements, and then when you blink it moves the story on.
Okay,
So it's very much a Pangles indie sort of like
absolutely.
games and story driven sort of thing. I think I played it twice because obviously when you blink the story like jumps, so like you do miss stuff and that. But I played it obviously with the webcam, and webcam's so good on tracking. Well, obviously, this being in VR, when it has that eye tracking, like we talked about Switchback, and that's how this is gonna. So it's gonna be a game where like you're not gonna need a controller. So like most people would be able to play it. So you could show someone a VR game, and they don't really know how to, don't really need to know how to use a controller. So you're not gonna need that. So it's gonna be like the eye tracking sort of thing, and then like on PC playing it, like you sat in bed because you like you're ill or something, and you're only like looking forward, and like your mother or father comes through like the door, but in the VR, because it's you can like move your head around the whole like bedroom or whatever sort of thing. So it's gonna be interesting how that game translates because I can definitely see it being better than the PC experience because you're gonna be more immersed in the game, and with the eye tracking, I would hope it's going to be better than a webcam thing, and it's something like Switchback is touting how the blinking and stuff goes to tell the story. Plus, I can see it being an easy platinum trophy, so that's always good as well.
Yes, yeah, it's one of those that's Pringles
Plus,
game,
it's not,
isn't it?
and plus, it's not like I said. I haven't pre-ordered it yet because I didn't know like when my PSVR is coming, any review codes or that sort of thing. But I think it's like 11 quid at the moment, so it's not. It's one of those games that's not hugely expensive, so you can
No, and you don't need to buy
take a
everything
punt on.
day one as
No.
well. Like there will be sales
Mm,
fairly early.
mm,
So nice. I think the only negative really about the PSVR we can talk about from that list is
mm,
really its lack of backwards compatibility. Because
mm-hmm.
like you said, like even Resident Evil 7, you can't play that
No.
on the VR2 and you can't play, So for me, like it's probably the one thing other than finances that's probably stopped me from pre-ordering it because I
Mm.
want to play the
Astro.
first Astro, I want to play Blood and Truth, like you know what I mean? Like I want to play
Mm,
Tetris Effect. I'm sure that'll get a patch, but like you know what I mean? Like that's probably for me the biggest downside. But that ten games there, like even for me who doesn't like
mm.
horror games, I'd play Gran Turismo 7, I'd play Horizon straight away. You know what I mean? I probably would play Kayak VR. I'd play whatever that game is where you have the tentacle arms. That game looks really fun.
No, Kalula or something like that. I think
Yes,
it's
like
called. Yeah,
that's
no,
probably one of those
it's
one of the
from the
games for me.
guys at Job Simulator and stuff like that.
Yes, those games are always fun. So I think it's a good start. I suppose the last before we end the podcast, because I suppose the biggest question I have for you is how excited are you? Like all jokes, like take the Chris Pengelly critical looking at it away, like pure excitement for like a new platform. Like how are you personally feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited all about it and to get in to the VR. I just don't really know when mine's coming. Like they've not took the money yet. And I think it's got 22nd to the 28th is the delivery day of it. So don't even know when I'm gonna have mine. That's also another thing. So it might turn up like the 28th, and I'm like, I'm in work today. I'm not playing my new VR. So yeah.
Yeah, I think they've said they've made too many, haven't they?
Mm,
For what they thought. So I think that's in a weird way, that's kind of a good thing. I think you will get it before the end of the month. As
mm,
soon as that shipment makes it to the UK, think you'll be one of the ones that gets it. I don't think there'll be. I can't imagine it being a huge seller at the begin with. I think it's
no.
gonna. I think this is the most word of mouth add-on that they've ever made, even compared to the first one. I think if people love it,
Mm,
the fact that it's quite easy to use, it's only got one cable and all that good stuff, is going to push it. It's just the sell. Like I said, for me, like it's if you enjoy it, they keep putting out a couple of games a month that are worth playing, even if they're smaller games. It's one I might look at the end of the year because I never took the punt on the first VR because it was
no.
never quite cheap enough and it was always a bit too much of a hassle with all the
Mm,
cables. Whereas one
and the
really long,
box and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, whereas one really long cable, from what I've seen from the unboxings,
Yeah, I think it's like
works.
14 feet or something
Yeah,
like
like
that.
it really works for my setup, and like I
Mm,
will play like Gran Turismo 7. I'll play the whole like
mm,
in fact I would play that with a headset, like, and I would play like I like Horizon. So like once I finish this Horizon, I start looking at the other ones. I think it's incredibly doable, Chris. I think it's doable for the first
yeah.
time. I would probably admit that. Like the more footage, obviously, I've watched all the footage that I'm showing the viewers, and I've been watching footage of your coverage on the channel before. I think it's going to be fun. It's always fun with new tech. Obviously, I'd rather they had just made their own version of the Steam Deck, Chris. But we can't have
Mm.
everything, can we?
Yeah, I guess the one thing disappointing at launch, there's only like one first-person shooter, which is I think it's Pavlov,
Yeah.
which of what I've heard is really good on PC because it's PC and has like the modding community. I think like people have like made like blood gold and stuff from Halo. But obviously, that's not going to be a thing on PSVR2, so they've just got like the 10 regular maps. So it's a little bit different, like disappointing because you got Crossfire's got a VR game coming, got Firewall coming, sort of thing. So because you think first person shooter, yeah, makes sort of like sense in VR, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's curious. It's curious to see what the third parties do. Like I said, like we've talked at length personally how much the Half-Life Alex would be a huge
Mm.
selling point for us. So um, I think we can cross our fingers and hope
Yes,
for the best,
weirdly
can't we?
that is like I don't know how much that game is on Steam, but it's like if Half-Life Alex is like 60 quid in digital only, I most probably would buy that.
Half-Life Alex is probably like I'm not even going to say this to put this into the world, but Half-Life Alex is the game
Mm,
that would persuade me. I
mm,
think, like it would probably be enough to push me into a purchase if I saw it because it's just that type of game where you're like,
mm.
oh, like when you've suddenly got Horizon and Half-Life Alex, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, this is probably worth it now.
It's 50 quid on Steam, Half-Life
Okay,
Alex,
that's not
so
too bad. And again, at least it's yeah.
mm,
I probably would. I'll be honest. I
yeah,
probably would.
yeah. Weirdly, like I think we did an episode once before about on the main podcast like games that we want remastered stuff, and I mentioned stuff like Panzer Dragoon Saga because like no one could play that game. Half-Life Alex is mostly like one of the best games that like no one's played.
Yeah, no, we've talked as well. We talked on the podcast about how our extreme lack of knowledge of Half-Life
Half-Life.
anyway. So obviously, I'm playing those games currently on my Steam Deck. But once I finish those games, and suddenly if Half-Life Alex were to come to VR, I'd be like,
Mm.
hi, hello guys.
That's the only other thing with VR is a general platform. Like I can kind of get Horizon being exclusive to PSVR2 because it's a PlayStation IP. Even though we got PlayStation stuff on PC now, so maybe Call of Mountain goes on Steam.
Wouldn't be
Can you use
surprised. Would not be
so
surprised now you've mentioned that actually.
that's the one thing. Like VR is a niche platform already, and then we have stuff broken up within platforms. So like Half Life is only on PC VR. Resident Evil 4, there is a Resident Evil 4 VR game already based on the original
Hmm.
Resident Evil 4. That's only on Quest 2. Horizon's only on PSVR 2. So we're taking a small audience then, and then we're splinter the audience thing. But I guess the problem is again PlayStation IPs and Half Life, obviously a Valve IP, is there's different levels of specs. Like a Quest One spec is very different to a Vive spec. thing for PC.
Mm.
I'm guessing that's also one of the issues, but it's one of the one systems where like I wish there was like no exclusives for, because then we can grow the audience, and like the VR audience is one big sort of audience instead
Yeah.
of like,
Mm.
oh, I'm in the PSVR2 audience, and oh, I'm in the Quest One, okay, sort of thing. I'm in the Pico.
Right. It's just I think it's yeah, I just think you're right, it does saturate a bit too much. And even like even if you look internally, like the fact that PSVR 1 and PSVR 2 just do not play
Mm,
together well. It's like it's like you said before, like it's a big old box of headset you're gonna have to sell, and like
mm,
who wants to buy VR? Like, because I personally would have probably bought a VR1 headset the start of the PS5 gen
mm,
had I thought that it would have been forwards compatible, because I
mm,
would have just moved my games over, got the new headset, but like still had a good experience playing it on PS5. But the fact that that's not really the case is just a bit it's weird. I mean, I personally hope that Sony are right now scrambling to port the best in like first party VR1 games to
mm,
VR2, and I don't know why they wouldn't. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't put Astrobot on VR2, and I don't know why they wouldn't put Blood and Truth, like those, because it's just like you said, it's easy content. If those games came out re-released, or even if they came out via Plus or they came out via anything else, like you would buy them and you would play them. Like, because
yeah,
even you, like your VR didn't have it the whole time, so like you probably haven't played like an up-resed version of Blood and Truth sounds like a big hit, like an up-res
yeah.
version of Astrobot's post Playroom. I feel like it'd be a very popular game, but we
It
will
would.
see, Chris.
It'd be interesting how what happens to PSVR one, and like in 6 months' time, am I gonna go past CEX or something, and it's like, oh, there's a PSVR one there, and it's like 50 quid or something. Like, I eventually wouldn't buy it, but I'm like, I just think, because the library is like a few hundred games, and that. Like, I don't know if like people will be like, oh, pick up PSVR ones if they're like really cheap or something used,
Yeah,
because
I mean, I just think it's no point.
I
That's
don't know
that's
like
the
how
problem.
much Quest ones are now compared to like Quest twos, for instance. That would be a good comparison, I guess.
Yeah, I think unless you're desperate to get in at a like low level, you know what I mean? Like, I think
Mm,
for me personally, I think if you're going to make the effort to go all into VR, it's not a cheap
mm,
experience. So you
yeah.
just wait. Like I said, for me, like personally, like I am quite interested in PSVR 2 as a concept. It's
Mm,
just financially it doesn't work for me right now. At Christmas
no.
it might. So if I can
Yeah.
buy it at Christmas with 4 or 5 games, um, then I'm just gonna go and get VR2. I'm not gonna waste my
Bother VR
time
one.
VR1, because
Yeah.
what's the point? Like, you've got to get the extra cable, and then it's like, cool, all these new games I really like the look of are not going to be playable. You're gonna have to find move ones. You know what I mean? So it's
Mm.
whereas like,
Yeah. The move. That's half the problem. The PSVR one is trying to find move controllers.
right, whereas like this, at least you have it pretty much.
Yeah.
It's all
Everything's in
in.
the box.
Yeah, everything's in
Yeah.
the box that you need. Like, sure, it
Nearly
doesn't.
everyone. I know this is expensive, but PSVR one, like that was a right pain because you had to buy the headset, then you had to go buy the camera, then you had to go buy the move controllers. And that
Yes,
actually ended up being almost the same price as this by the time you actually bought everything to play it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas this is, like you said, it's like, sure, it's 570 odd quid or whatever, but like
Mm.
it's one box. Like, it's
Yeah.
we get to December, and I'm like, I want to buy that. I buy one box. I buy a bundle with whatever game is out, whether it's Horizon or it's something else, and then I'm happy.
Yeah.
Whereas
As
like,
Larry.
half so happy as Larry. But
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
Mm.
I look forward to your coverage. Probably by the next time we do one of these, like these will probably be a monthly
Mm.
show. Whenever big stuff happens in the PlayStation world, because we joke, like, we started this podcast in 2016, I think, to talk about PlayStation specifically, and
Yeah.
obviously we've since then got other platforms and fallen in and out of love with it. But I think PlayStation is always going to be a constant in our lives, so
Yeah.
we'll almost certainly do one of these a month, and then I'll have to go and amuse Craig by doing an Xbox podcast with just Craig, and then split it
Yeah.
all up even more. But let's end this now, as we're over an hour. So thank you everyone for watching our return to PlayStation. If you've made it to this far, please comment. What should we comment? Comment Half-Life Alex
Mm.
if you made it this far, and tell us what kind of games you want for VR. Are you buying a VR2? Is Chris crazy just in general? Let us know. and we will see you again next month.
Bye.